A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning, with the house.
Good สวัสดีท่านผู้ชมทุกท่านด้วยนะครับวันนี้มาเจอกับเกมชื่อว่า What Remains of Edith Finch นะครับผมมันเป็นเกมในEpic Store นะก็ผมเห็นว่าคือเกมมันเป็นตั้งแต่ปี2017แล้วแหละครับ
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral. In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. Maybe she thought I'd know, or she thought the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
คือถ้าผมแปลผิดอะไรผมต้องขอไปด้วยจริงๆเพราะว่าบางศัพท์ผมไม่รู้อันนี้ก็คือผมจะเล่นไปเรื่อยๆเนี่ยแต่ว่าถ้าภาพมันเสียผมต้องขอโทษด้วยนะ
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
ไม่ได้มีคนมาที่นี่นานแล้วสักครู่นะท่านผู้ชมฮัลโหลพ่อยังมาแล้ว
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
มีคำถามบางอย่างเกี่ยวกับครอบครัวฉันอ่านไม่ทันที่มันยังค้างคาใจอยู่มั้งว่าเกี่ยวถามไม่ทันจริงเป็นบ้า
The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it. As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house. I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't. Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me.
The chip to zoom เหรอผมว่าบ้านนี้ไม่ต้องรอคนตัวแหละจริงคืออันนี้เกมนี้ผมได้ดูจบไปแล้วแต่เนื่องด้วยความอยากลองแล้วก็ที่ส่วนตัวผมเล่นเกมแนวสตอรี่ไม่ค่อยจบอย่างท่านผู้ชมน่าจะรู้ว่าผมเล่นบัตแอนด์เบคอนก็ไม่จบเกือบจะจบ Emily Wants to Play ก็เล่นไม่จบแต่เกือบจะจบ โอ้ทางเข้าช่องประตูแมวนี่เลย
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
อ๋อทางประตูหมาโอ้ตัวละครนั่น
The power had been turned off the night we left.
พลังงานหมดพลังไฟหมดไปคืนที่เราออกไปโอ้แล้วก็ทิ้งรถไว้คันหนึ่งเนี่ยนะสุดยอดเลยดูหลอนดีนะ
For the first time in years,
เป็นครั้งแรกในหลายปี
I felt like I was home.
ที่ฉันรู้สึกฉันได้อยู่บ้าน
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
ซับที่ไหน Finch นั่นเราเด็กผู้หญิงที่เดินกลมฟังอยู่
Like how after Lewis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
หลังจากที่ลุยส์ทำงานในร้านในโรงงานผลิตทูน่าเขาก็ได้ทูน่ามากินตลอดเลยโอ้โหทูน่าเต็มบ้านเลยท่านผู้ชมตายกินแต่ทูน่า
The table was still a wreck from the night we left.
โต๊ะก็ยังเหมือนเดิม
It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
เหมือนกับระเบิดลงแล้วก็ฆ่าทุกๆคน
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it, like a smile with too many teeth.
โอ้ผมแปลไม่ทัน
Even the fireplace had a story.
ตายผมแปลไม่ทัน
Edie told me the bricks came from the original house after it sank.
อีดิบอกว่าไออันเนี้ยปล่องไฟเนี่ยมันอยู่มาตั้งแต่บ้านอยู่แรกๆก็เหมือนกับนี่ไงในรูปโอ้หนึ่งคนที่เข้ามาดูนี่ผมขอบคุณมากจริงๆนะโอ้หมุนเมาส์เองหมุนเมาส์เอง
Great Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house. Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
แม่คนนี้เขาบอกว่ามันแบบเล่าเรื่องว่าแบบมันห้ามไปอะไรอย่างเงี้ยตอนนี้ผมใช้วิธีจับใจความเอาแล้วเพราะแปลไม่ทันจริง
My mom wasn't much of an optimist, but she never stopped believing that my brother Milton was alive.
อ๋อคือพี่ชายหรือน้องชายของคนเนี้ยเขาหายแล้วแม่ของเขาก็ยังเชื่อว่าเขายังมีชีวิตอยู่
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night.
หลายอย่างถูกทิ้งเอาไว้จากคืนที่ครอบครัวเนี้ยหนีออกไปโอ้
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
Whoa.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
ลิสบอกว่ามันจะมีทางผ่านไปแต่ฉันไม่เคยเชื่อเขากุญแจไขได้ไหมไขได้
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
It was time to find. ตอนนี้ได้เวลาหาที่ที่แม่ซ่อนไว้แล้วโอ้บ้านห้องทุกห้องล็อกหมดเลย
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
เมื่อ เมื่อทุกคนพูดถึงครอบครัวฉันเขาจะนึกถึงบาบาร่า My friends Bigfoot introducing Barbara Finch now showing น่าจะ now เมื่อ7 ปีที่แล้วหรือ10 ปีที่แล้ว
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
แม่ล็อกข้างบนนี้ไว้หลังจากตั้งแต่คืนที่เราออกไป
Edie's father Odin built the original house.
Edith father เขาเป็นคนสร้างบ้านหลังนี้ขึ้นก็มันมีอยู่ทางเดียวให้เราเข้าไปแต่ผมถามจริงทำไมพื้นที่ตรงนี้มันแสงไฟแสงนี่ทำไมจังหวะมันต้องบิวด้วยนะ
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me. Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan. But I had no idea what was behind that door. Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead.
All this was gonna lead. เหมือนสุ่มทางเอามอลลี่ห้องของมอลลี่
I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage. Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting. I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here before my mom sealed the doors.
Molly เกิด1937ตาย1947โอ้อายุ10 ขวบเอง
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
ฉันตื่นขึ้นมาแล้วฉันก็เริ่มมองหาอะไรที่จะกิน
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
มันแห้งนะแต่อาหารมันแห้งนะแต่ว่าฉันไม่สนใจแปลว่าหิวมากเลยอย่างนี้
I kept eating and eating.
ฉันเริ่มกินเรื่อยๆแล้วก็กินเรื่อยกินยาสีฟันเข้าไป
I ate a lot of things that night.
ฉันกินหลายอย่างเลยในคืนนั้นนี่มันพลาสติกนะคุณหนูได้เสียงนกนะได้ยินเสียง
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
ฉันก็กลายเป็นแมวดีใจกับคุณด้วยนะคุณหนูคุณเพิ่งกิน
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really scared.
ฉันพยายามที่จะเงียบแล้วแต่นกก็ยังกลัวอยู่นกไปทางไหนทางนี้เหรอ
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
พ่อกับแม่ไม่ได้มองฉันเลยเดี๋ยวนั่นมันหุ่นนะคุณเธอนั่นมันหุ่นโอ้นี่มันก่อนบ้านหลังนี้จะสร้างเสร็จอีกนะเนี่ยแปลว่ามอลลี่ต้องแก่กว่าเราผมว่าแปลว่ามอลลี่ต้องแก่กว่าเรา
I jumped and I almost got her.
ฉันกระโดด
I could tell she was getting really tired.
ฉันสามารถบอกได้ว่าฉันเหนื่อยไม่เหนื่อยได้ไงคุณเป็นแมวคุณกระโดดก็
Now I was up in the big tree.
ตอนนี้
I
ฉันอยู่บน
promised
ต้นไม้
Dad
ต้
I
นใหญ่
wouldn't climb it anymore.
และฉันสัญญากับพ่อ
All I
ฉันจะ
cared
ไม่ปีน
about
ต้นไม้
was eating that mama bird.
แต่ตอนนี้ฉันอยากกินนก
I gobbled her up,
ฉันเกือบจะจับเธอได้แล้ว
and suddenly I was an
ฉันก็
owl.
กลายเป็นนก
First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass. Rabbits.
แล้วบินกระต่ายกระต่าย
I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit. Then I flew off to find something bigger.
คือเขากินเข้าไปอ่ะแล้วตอนนี้เขาหาอะไรที่มันใหญ่กว่ากระต่ายตัวใหญ่กว่า
A mama rabbit.
แม่กระต่ายอาม่าราบิทอาม่าราบิท โฉบไม่โดนอาม่าราบิทเฮ้ยนี่โฉบโดนแน่นอน
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
เดี๋ยวกลายเป็นฉลามกลางป่าเอ้าโอ้เอ้าติดผมต้องทำไงผมติดเป็นฉลามติดต้นไม้ผมอาจจะต้องทำยังไงนี่ฉลามติดต้นไม้
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
Now I was
I wanted fat, juicy seals.
juicy sea คืออะไร juicy sea น้ำเหรอ
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
ฉันกัดครีบของเธอซึ่งและรสชาติมันก็อร่อยมากน่าจะเป็นปัญหา
Grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
เมื่อไหร่ตั้งแต่พอฉันเปิดลืมตาขึ้นมาทุกอย่างก็เปลี่ยนไปกลายเป็นงูโอ้ใช่ไหมไม่มันคือปลาหมึกท่านผู้ชมแล้วคือสควิด
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
ตอนนี้ฉันกลายเป็นปีศาจอ๋อนี่ปีศาจมอนสเตอร์ ผ
was big, but I moved real quiet. I wanted to stop, but also I didn't. After the last passenger, I was still hungry. And across the water, I saw something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it. I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe. I got closer and closer. All my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to be, and we both know I will be delicious.
Delicious. เดี๋ยวไปรับพ่อครับ
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
มอลลี่นั่นเราอยู่ขวาบนสุดเกิดปี1999และยังไม่ตายตอนนี้ทุกคนตายหมดแล้วเหลือแค่เรากับคนนี้โอเคเราอยู่ในห้องมอลลี่
I can't describe it, but I felt like some part of Molly was still here.
ฉันไม่ค่อยมั่นใจฉันรู้สึกว่าส่วนของมอลลี่อยู่ที่นี่อ๋อนี่ไงที่เขาบอกว่าเขาเป็นมอนสเตอร์นี่ไงเนี่ยมอนสเตอร์และนี่คือทุกอย่างแมวอันนี้บอกที่ว่าเป็นนกคู่นะนั่นเป็ด
This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly.
Maybe I willขอพักไว้แค่นี้ก่อนนะท่านผู้ชมนะเดี๋ยวขออยู่ตรงนี้ไปก่อนปึ๊บเดี๋ยวผมกลับมาเล่นต่อสักครู่นะท่านผู้ชม ว่าจะเล่นเกมนี้ให้มันจบไปเลยทีเดียวได้ปุ๊บจบปั๊บ
I spent a lot of time in Great Grandma Edie's room.
ฉันเสียเวลาไปมากสำหรับห้องของคุณยายของอีดิธ
Her room was like a museum.
ห้องของเธอเหมือนพิพิธภัณฑ์เลย
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune.
ได้เป็นที่รู้จักเจ้านอร์เวย์ของแบบมันเป็นที่รู้จักในนอร์เวย์อะไรอย่างเงี้ยแล้วมันเป็นแบบเฟมัสก็คือเป็นที่โด่งดังที่รู้จักนะปึ๊บ
Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan.
Other friends, Odin Finch were the ancestors of the family, his wife, newborn son.
On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind.
ในเดือนมกราคมวันที่ 7 ปี 1937 เขาย้ายถิ่นฐานบ้านของครอบครัวย้ายก็คือย้ายถิ่นฐานแล้วก็ทิ้งความหลังไว้
But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea.
40 ฟุตเหมือนถล่มบ้านท่านผู้ชมคือมันพัดถล่มบ้านไปอยู่ก้นของมหาสมุทร
Odin's daughter Edith, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island.
Eden with husband Sven and baby Molly husband ก็คือลูกสาวของโอดินอีดินกับสามีเธอและลูกมอลลี่มอลลี่ลูกคนแรกนะสเต็ปอาโชทีแดนิโอก็เหมือนกับก้าวขึ้นในเพื่อก้าวขึ้นเกาะเพื่อจะไปแบบเพื่อจะไปสร้างบ้าน
Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery.
เป็นจุดกำเนิดใหม่ของครอบครัว
His daughter Edith is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
His daughter Eden is already dreaming of a new Finch ลูกสาวของพวกเขาเริ่มพร้อมที่จะฝันถึงบ้านใหม่แล้วหมดละผมกดออกไงผมจะกดออกไงReal News สักครู่ท่านผู้ชมโอเคดิน
Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
Saving ละท่านผู้ชมเขาเป็นคนชอบวาดรูป
Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him.
Louis ตายก่อนที่เราจะย้ายบ้าน
Edie knit me a new pair of gloves every year, just in time to replace the old ones.
New pan of growth every year
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't.
Dragon kill Finch คนนี้เขาโดนมังกรไม้
even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
Younger than my mother ก็คือดูอ่อนเยาว์หรือดูเด็กกว่าแม่ของเขาโอ้กระจกฝุ่น
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace.
อ๋อ first key ปึ๊บลูกกุญแจเลยปึ๊บโอเคมีThen a secret in this bathroom. Oh, ตั้งชื่อได้สุดยอด
There's a secret in this bathroom.
มีความลับอยู่ในห้องน้ำ
It's in the last place you would look.
Is it the last place you will look? เป็นที่สุดท้ายที่คุณจะมอง
It isn't in the cupboard.
มันไม่ได้อยู่ในไอ้นะใต้ซิงค์น้ำหรอ
It's hidden in this book.
มันซ่อนอยู่ในหนังสือเล่มว้าว
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
แซมให้กล้องเก่ากับแซมแล้วดูผมว่าเขาน่าจะชอบมันนะเพราะว่าดูจากการถ่ายรูปของเขาแล้วก็เยอะอยู่คือผมต้องไปทางนี้ใช่ไหมเด็กผู้ชาย Font carving for Sam ฝาแฝดครับท่านผู้ชมแล้วกั้นไว้อย่างนี้
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin.
ฉันรู้ว่าคุณปู่แซมมีฝาแฝดโอ้1958เลยเหรอ
And that he never talked about him.
แล้วก็เขาไม่เคยพูดถึงแฝด
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
ฉันคิดว่า my grandpa he didn't like history ไม่ชอบเรื่องในเรื่องอะไรพวกนี้อ๋อเชียร์เล่น
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die before he ate another mushroom, and he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin! Dinner's ready! Coming!
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that.
Calvin, I'm not gonna touch your head.
Maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
การไขว่ชิงช้าลับตา
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
ตอนที่ฉันยังเด็กฉันอยากจะทำแบบเดียวกัน
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room.
The funeral Edith broke off Calvin has ก็คือแบบพอ
Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
Sam ไอ้จินเนี่ยว่าก็คือพอคุณปู่แซมอายุ18ใช่ไหมครับก็คือแบบครั้งสุดท้ายเนี่ยที่เขาวัดกันมันคือปี1961 8 ขวบ 9 ขวบ 10 ขวบ 11 ขวบพอ11 ขวบปุ๊บเควินตายดังนั้นเขาก็วัดความสูงมาคนเดียวเลยซึ่งแต่ว่าเขาจะตัวสูงเท่ากันดังนั้นเขา18ปุ๊บเขาก็เนี่ยก็ไม่เข้ามาห้องฝั่งเนี่ยกั้นแล้วก็ฝั่งนี้เขาก็โตเรื่อยๆเรื่อยๆมันเป็นแซดสตอรี่อ๋อเดี๋ยวเหรอปริศนาโง่
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies. Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
ถึงแม้ฉันจะโตแล้วฉันก็ยังคิดว่าบาบาร่าเป็นดาราที่เด็กที่สุดผมว่าถ้าผมน่าจะพูดถูกเนี่ย My Friend Bigfoot แล้วก็บาบาร่า Finch โอ้มีมาเป็นตุ๊กตาเลยนี่ข่าวจากแฟนคลับนะยังไม่ได้ดูสตอรี่เลยผมบอกครับผมเอาไปแล้วต้องรู้สตอรี่กัน
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
ฉันไม่เคยคิดถึงว่ามันจะยากแค่ไหนเธอแบบจะทำขนาดนี้ได้บาบาร่า1944ตาย1960
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up, a has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
20 minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box. And as she wound the key, she listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
20 นาทีขนาดผ่านไป20 นาทีแล้วมันก็จะ
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you're...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
คนล่อเธอเจ็บตัวแน่บอกเรื่องล้อเล่นเธอโดนแน่
Walter, are you there? Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hookman, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's got to be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully. At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. พูดเป็นคำเดียวเลย
Surprise! Bravo!
You were wonderful.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard. But that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
โอเคท่านผู้ชมสรุปได้แล้วคือเรื่องทั้งหมดอ่ะมันเชิงว่า
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
เป็นที่รู้จักเป็นที่โด่งดังใช่ไหมแล้วในข่าวเนี่ยก็คือตำรวจเจอฆาตกรแบบสังหารโหดอ่ะแล้วรู้สึกเหมือนว่าหนึ่งในแฟนคลับของเขาหรืออะไรประมาณนี้นะเป็นฆาตกรสังหารโหดและพวกนั้นก็ลุมฆ่าเธอแล้วก็แย่งเธอชิ้นอะไรอย่างงี้แล้วก็มันก็เหลือแต่หูที่อยู่ในกล่องเพลงนั่นแหละและมันก็เป็นการร้องที่ดีที่สุด
I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box.
ฟังตั้งนานสรุปมาแค่นี้แหละไปไหนต่อบนนี่แหละอ๋อ Music Box ต้องไปที่กล่องเพลงอ๋อตรงนี้ไงตรงนี้เสร็จปุ๊บก็หล่นลงไปปัด
It's
funny. All those times I played with the music box and never found the basement key.
ครั้งที่ฉันเปิดเพลงฉันไม่เคยไม่ทันอีกแล้วที่เกมนี้มันเป็นเกมที่ดีนะท่านผู้ชมแต่ว่าผมรู้สึกว่ามันไอ้นี่มากเกินไปสำหรับสเปเตอร์มันเร็วมากเกินไปเฮ้ยอย่าเฮ้ยมันแจว
Mom said the basement was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot.
อ๋อก็เพราะว่ามันมีเหตุการณ์อันนี้เกิดขึ้นแน่เลยเขาเลยไม่ค่อยอยากให้
I saw Edith sneak down to the basement once, carrying packages.
ฉันเห็นEdithแอบเข้ามาในห้องนี้ครั้งหนึ่ง
I thought maybe she was hiding presents.
นี่อาจจะเป็นที่ซ่อน
It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that. I remember asking Mom once about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost friendly. And then one day, everything just stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can. I know it's out there somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day, even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week, I'd be happy with one new day. I can already imagine the sun on my face.
ถ้าตายเพราะเขาโดนผมว่าถ้าเขายังอยู่ในนี้อยู่
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me. Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else she was hiding. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two. I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself. And found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real. I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of. Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house, it had that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness. Any of it seems possible. I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house?
ครอบครัวไหนที่ก่อสร้างตั้งขึ้นมาเสร็จแล้วโดยการที่เริ่มต้น
It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery made me more uncomfortable than the human one.
นี่มันสุสานสัตว์
3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault. Sven built the house, but it was Edith who designed the cemetery. I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never went away. She could see it poking out of the water at low tide.
She could see it poking out of the water.
Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brothers. She was just trying to do better. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now. Part of me thinks this is what she wanted all along, for me to come back someday and find everything out for myself. looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant. I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
Wow.
Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something. Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it.
Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it. คือผมต้องขอโทษจริงๆที่ผมแปลได้แย่มากนะว้าวถ่ายนี่เลย
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are going to last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? Please just take the damn picture.
Hey, language.
Did you want to get a picture of me or what? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. That camera's older than you are. Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee.
You're right, Dad. It's starting to clear up. Still freezing, though. Aw.
Nothing quite like being outside. Oop, a little more gas in the tank, I guess.
Hold still while I take a picture of you.
I definitely won't be moving. Hey!
That's a keeper.
I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Don, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph? Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. We found an old log.
Dad!
Good eyes, Don. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad,
Let me get behind you.
do I have to do this?
Don, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Great shot, Don! I'm proud of you, Don. Always remember that, okay?
Dad, it's twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Don. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
แล้วเขาก็ตกภูเขาไปเป็นภาพสุดท้าย
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me.
Sam โอ้ตอนนี้ผมไม่สนใจแป๊ะผมสนใจในเรื่องนี้
After Sam died, my mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
เอ็ดก็เนลี่โคสก็คือเหมือนสนิทกันมากขึ้นก็คือแบบเมาตาดิโกรี่ดอนดัสดิโกรี่
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it.
มันมีอะไรสนุกๆแต่ไม่ใช่เขาที่
Hand over, Gregory. It's time to...
บอลลูน
Hold on,
อาบ
sweetie.
น้ำเวลาน้ำหยดแล้วแต่น้ำมันกำลังจะท่วม
Gregory?
I know you did everything you could. Maybe if I hadn't called that night.
Damn it. Oh, I don't want her to hear this.
I wish she could have told us. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. Father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom, were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined and as a sign held up his middle finger. Wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus. My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get. She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Lewis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush. was 4 when Milton disappeared. Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room, until Mom got him a job at the cannery. Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on. Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Louis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Louis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Louis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Louis. so I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Louis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her silver harp. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him. His queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him. On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing.
She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left. My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
The power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning. Okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you. And tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
ไม่ตัดส่วนที่ผมหายไปแล้วกันเพราะว่าผมว่ามันนั่นแหละผมว่ามันสมควรที่จะอยู่มันคือเรื่องที่เกิดขึ้นจริงใช่ไหมหรือว่ามันเป็นแค่เรื่องแต่งผมว่ามันเป็นแค่เรื่องแต่งเล่นไม่จบแล้วผมได้เกมนี้มาปุ๊บผมว่างั้นก็เล่นให้มันจบไปเลยแล้วกันมันจะได้ไม่ติดค้างกับไอ้บัตรแอนด์เบคอนแล้วก็Emily Wants to Play ผมยังติด Emily Wants to Play 2 คืน 3 คืนแล้วก็เหลือ Emily Wants to Play 2 ซึ่งผมจะเล่าเลยว่าผมกลัวแล้วก็ไม่กล้าเล่นต่อ ขอบคุณท่านผู้ชมทุกท่านที่นั่งดูกันมานะครับผมขอบคุณจริงๆงั้นไว้มีโอกาสจะเจอกันเกมหน้านะครับสำหรับวันนี้ก็ลาไปก่อนสวัสดีครับผม